Hey guys, welcome to the High Level Podcast. Thank you again for joining us this week. I'm your host, Mr. Jonathan Delport, joined as always by my beautiful co-host, Mr. Damon Huntelaar. How are you today, kind sir?
I could be better, but I'm doing pretty good.
No. Do you want to tell your mac and cheese story, or am I telling you mac and cheese story?
No, it's gonna be my permission to bitch, and then
Oh, that can be. Oh, yes. I mustn't ruin the pride. Okay, we'll see that permission to bitch. Mr. Huntelaar, this is your episode today. This is your episode. As everyone knows, we have like a lead for each episode, and this week is Mr. Damon's episode. Do you want to give us a sweet little introduction, Henry?
Yeah. So this week I'm going to be talking a lot about nuclear energy, and how I sort of like why I wanted to talk about this is through the weeks we've really been focusing on green energy and how do we make the world a better place. And in all of our research, nuclear has come up quite a lot, and I think nuclear is it's quite a controversial topic. I think there's a lot of misinformation about it. So it seems to be a very polarized topic. So I thought, why don't we dive into it and start looking into the facts? Because that's what we're here for. We're here for the facts. And I'm not gonna lie to you, it's actually such a massive topic that
it's of course.
Yeah,
man, we're breaking apart the bonds of the universe.
Yeah,
massive.
So today we're going to be talking a lot more about like what actually goes into uranium. Why do we use uranium? And how do we actually get it? How do we use it? Do you have to enrich uranium? And it's going to be an interesting one. We're going to talk about how do we look at nuclear energy in the past? What's our position in it today? We'll talk a little bit about waste management, and then we'll see where is South Africa in nuclear energy. So I think it's going to be exciting. And we're not.
It's good, man. Go for it.
Like like I said, there's so much to talk about that there's definitely going to be a lot we don't talk about. And so we're doing
100%.
This is definitely.
I still remember. I used to think, well, I don't know, just to sort of take it back to when I started taking nuclear seriously. It was like, obviously we'd heard about it in high school and stuff, like we've been alive and we've been around. I don't know, when was Chernobyl? Do you know a date? Was it
around the 1980s?
1980s, right? So like, obviously, like everyone, even my parents, like super against nuclear, everything like that. But I remember it was first or second year, there was like some talk at the engineering department, and for some reason I went, and I never went to talks, man. I never went to lectures, and I never went to talks, but I went to this one, and it was someone who worked at Berg and something to that effect, and it just completely swung my mind around to just hear professionals say, listen guys, nuclear, it's just been bad marketing. Let's be honest, been bad marketing. We need to change this. So that was my first. Do you remember when you first like got interested in nuclear?
When I first got interested in nuclear, it was also around varsity. And then we would do presentations. And then I think someone did a presentation on nuclear fusion. And it was very cool. And I always thought nuclear fusion was a bit of a woo-woo science kind of thing. I didn't think it was real. But now I think there's a lot more potential for it. And again.
No, 100%. Yeah.
Today we're going to be more talking about nuclear fission. We're not even going to touch fusion, not in this episode.
Yeah, no, it's too big. We'll have to get into it, but I think it's a good one. It's a good one. I mean, I recently watched Oppenheimer, so I'm ready for this, man. I'm ready to do it for Oppie.
Yeah, and I think Oppenheimer is also like one of the reasons why I'm doing this as well. It was one of our recommendations in the past. So
no, 100%. I wonder if we had like a graph of like public perception from when Oppenheimer came out into how like people have started Googling nuclear. And I wonder if people are getting more positive on it. I don't know. That would just be an interesting study, Just do an interesting study.
I don't know. After watching Oppenheimer, I was definitely a little bit more scared of nuclear.
The whole where they're calculating and they're like, oh, we could actually set off a chain reaction that burned the atmosphere, and they still went ahead with it, man. It's crazy. Good movie though. Fucking loved
Yeah.
it.
No, no.
All right, you want to kick us off there, Matthias?
Yeah, so I think we're gonna kick off of when did this all start. So I think it's pretty wide knowledge that it was during World War II that that sorry, I just got a voice message from Dave. I'm sure he's gonna ask me about questions.
And if the new running shoes are working for you.
Yeah, all right, I'll
Nice.
deal with that later. Okay, sorry.
No problem.
Let's try that again. All right, so yeah, where do we
Sorry,
Can you
man.
stop
I'm sorry.
laughing?
I'm going to calm down.
This is
I'm sorry.
serious.
This is serious. This is
This is
serious.
serious.
Mr. Winslow, take us into nuclear. Tell me the beginnings of this, please.
So nuclear started during World War II. At the time, there were a lot of countries that were looking into this, and kind of the idea behind it is that the Americans were the first one to develop the first nuclear bomb. That was around the 1940s, and that was that whole big project. If you watch Oppenheimer, you'll know what I'm talking about. And the whole idea about it was all the countries are trying to develop this, so the Americans really pushed forward to try and get it done. And the idea was that whoever could develop this first would have control over it. And that wasn't wrong, But after the Americans developed the atomic bomb, it wasn't long after, before the Soviets developed it, and the rest of the world, and now most countries at least know how to do it. How easy it is to develop nuclear is a different story, and we'll get more into that. But it was really in the 1950s that the focus moved to a more peaceful application, i.e.,
Yeah, well, I mean, the war was over.
generation.
We didn't want to bomb each other anymore.
So yeah, yeah, whether or not it was a good or bad thing, I don't know. This is
it is. It's a thing. It's a thing. It's where we stand. Yeah.
But we have the technology now, so I think it's worth understanding, and worth looking into.
100%.
So yeah, what exactly is nuclear fission? So
there we go.
Everyone says it's splitting of atoms, which is
that true, Mr. Hinslow? Is that true, or is it only partly true?
It is. It's true, but it's a bit more complex than just splitting atoms. So you have to have what we call a fissile particle or a fissile atom to be able to do it, and that's why we use the main nuclear fuel is uranium-235. Now the 235, what does that mean? It's a specific isotope of uranium. And yeah, again, we'll really get into the nitty and gritties about why is 235 so important. And so what happens is uranium-235 collides with neutrons are ejected from somewhere, and then they collide into other uranium-235 atoms. Then when that happens, it splits it up into a barium nucleus and a krypton nucleus, and or 2 or 3 more neutrons get ejected from that. And then what happens is those 2 or 3 neutrons go collide into other uranium-235 atoms, and so the chain reaction continues. I'm pretty sure it reminds me of a video I used to watch. Well, okay, I would say I used to watch. I watched it once, but it was very cool.
Okay, fair enough.
So it's basically, and they were trying to capture how explosive a nuclear reaction is. And so they put a whole bunch of ping pong balls on rat traps.
Okay, yeah.
And then the dude took just one ping pong ball, he threw it into like the pile, and then you saw how like just they all go off.
Thought it's going. So, yeah. Jesus, okay.
Yeah, it's a I don't know how accurate that is, but I mean,
no, but it's obviously very reactionable. Is that a word? Reactable?
Yeah.
Reactionary?
So the word they use it for it is called fissile.
Yeah. Okay, like, got you.
So
and
like for instance,
does fissile mean it's just uranium is very good at giving off its neutrons, or what does fissile mean?
It means that it's easy. It's easier to cause this atom. It says so for something to be fissile, it needs to be radioactive, which means it has a small half-life, which means it's unstable. It has to
Got you.
inherently be an unstable particle. And
Okay, got
just
you.
disclaimer, I'm not a nuclear physicist.
What?
Uh,
No, man. That's the whole reason I got you on here.
so if if I get some things wrong, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get like a high level
We're
view.
putting it out there. There will be things wrong, but we're just trying to be general here.
But yeah, if you have any interesting information to point out,
Or
send
if
us
you're a nuclear
send us
scientist,
a
yeah,
mail.
100%.
If this is somehow on
100%.
a reel on LinkedIn or Instagram, let me know. I'm interested to learn. So yeah.
100%.
So then once we manage to split these uranium-235 atoms, then that reaction releases energy in the form of heat and radiation. Then from this point, that heat is then used to heat water and turn it into steam. And from here, the power generation process is conceptually pretty much the same as
Yeah,
with
it's
fossil.
boiling water to blow steam at a turbine, and you get the same result, basically. It's just the fuel you're using now that's different.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, like I said, now the main fuel is uranium. So
I mean, the question from my side is why is uranium the one that's chosen? And I'm sure you go into this now, but like it seems like such an odd thing to choose. I know you said it must be to an extent radioactive and unstable. Is that the reason? Is that the only reason they use uranium?
no, I don't know. I don't
You
know
don't
why.
know.
It's I
But
didn't look.
it's the chosen one.
Yeah, it seems to be the chosen one. There's also plutonium, but and we'll mention this a bit further. But so plutonium is more of a byproduct of this whole nuclear reaction.
Okay, got you.
So
Okay,
yeah,
fair enough.
so uranium, it's found naturally in the Earth's crust, and it's even found in seawater. Did you know that?
I I feel like I've heard it somewhere in a video probably, but yeah, that's
Yeah,
very cool.
and it's 40 times more abundant than silver, 500 times more common than gold, and it's present throughout the Earth's crust in components
Who's
like
to say?
rocks,
I
soil,
found
rivers,
500
oceans.
times. I'm not sure. I found that 500 times. I see you found 1,000 times more
Yeah,
abundant than gold. So, I mean, there's all things out there. We're gonna just take 750, split the difference.
yeah. I think that's a
There,
fair.
100.
That's fair.
It's fair. All
And
right.
the biggest deposits are found in Australia, Canada, Niger, here in the South Africa,
In the South
Namibia,
Africa.
Brazil, Kazakhstan, and even Mongolia. So yeah, like
Okay, nice.
so I think to answer your question, I think the reason why they use uranium is one, uh, it's a fairly common element.
Mm.
Uh,
Oh, it must be. Gee, whiskers. All right. No, fair enough. And we mine uranium. It's up there, Katu side, eh? Like Northern Cape, obviously on the border with Namibia as well.
I believe so.
I know there's a
Yeah.
few uranium mines there as well. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So, and there's also some deposits in France. In I think I'm going to butcher the name, Vendy and Limousin. But these,
Lamosa?
Lamol. I don't know. I'm not going to try to do a French
No,
accent. I don't want to culturally appropriate anything like
no,
that.
no. You are a cisgendered white male. You need to watch yourself, man. Check your
Yes.
privilege. But
So
I got a quick one for you. In Africa, so Niger, Namibia, and South Africa produce about 18% of the total demand, like international demand of uranium. 18%.
that's cool, man.
Can you believe it? Oh,
Yeah. So, and there's only 3 uranium isotopes that occur naturally. So
okay.
that's U-238. That is by far the most abundant. And we're talking about 99.2 something something, 27 something. So let's say 99.3%
Okay,
of
got you.
all uranium on Earth that's found in the Earth's crust is
Gee whiz. Okay.
uranium-238. Now,
Okay.
that uranium is useless. Okay, maybe not useless.
Yeah.
It does participate in the
Not
nuclear
as
reaction,
useful.
but
Yeah.
it's not fissile.
Hmm.
Right. So
Okay, I'll take your word for that.
you can split it, but it becomes plutonium, and that's another nuclear thing.
That's a no-no.
But you
Okay.
need uranium-235 to do the trick.
Okay,
And
got
there's
you.
also uranium-234, but there's so little of that like they basically said something. It's like 0.005% of it
Okay, and
is
that's
uranium.
occurring naturally.
Yeah.
These numbers are for natural occurring.
yeah. So for the purposes of our calculations, we'll just
Gotcha.
assume that only 0.7% of uranium is due to 235, and then the rest
And
is
that's the one we want, basically.
yeah,
That's the one we're looking for.
235 is the one we want. All right, so
Okay,
now,
cool.
sorry, it was Zoom was giving me a pop-up and it was distracting me.
No, fair enough.
Yeah. And
So,
okay.
yeah, sorry, man. So, okay, obviously, uranium, 238, most of it. But we're
Yeah.
looking for 235 because it is the chosen one
Yes.
of the chosen one.
Yes.
So, enrichment, I've heard this word thrown around. What is enrichment? High level.
High level. So
High level.
enrichment
Yes.
is when you find a true purpose, then you get enriched.
Dude, I was drinking water, man. Come on.
Okay, so in terms of uranium, like I said, we have a 0.7. Like now when we talk about uranium, we're gonna start talking about concentrations now. So,
Okay.
like I said, in naturally occurring uranium, so the uranium we mine, 0.7 is U-235. Okay, but for nuclear rods, the uranium that's in nuclear rods, that needs to be enriched to 3.5% uranium of 235.
Okay.
So we need
What's the rest? What's the rest of the rod made of? Do you know?
238.
Oh, okay, sure. So you got to take that 0.7% up of this rod up to 3.5% of the isotope 235.
Exactly.
Gee whiskers.
And
That's like
and this is not
five
in
times the concentration.
yeah. So I
Okay.
mean, depending on what you're gonna be using your nuclear fuel for, you need to enrich
I
it to
want to make a
different
bomb.
amount.
I want to make a bomb.
90%.
Sure. I don't want to make a bomb anymore, man.
Yeah. And we'll get into like just how much effort you have to actually put in to get to that point. Like it's
Okay.
really
Okay.
not an easy task to do.
Okay. Now, fair enough. I didn't think it would be easy.
Yeah. So I mean, typically you need between 3 to 4% enrichment for nuclear power. Then like the more high powered nuclear reactors, 5%, and then you're getting like the new cutting edge nuclear reactors, and they're going up to 20%.
Okay. Gee whiskers.
Yeah.
So how exactly does this whole enrichment process look? Like what's the story?
So we start with the mining process.
Yeah.
So uranium is what yellow cake actually is. So it's a uranium oxide basically. It's uranium but in rust form.
Okay, got you.
And all the mining processes, they would generally mine it, and then it would go through a milling process where they would crush it, mix it with water, and that would create a slurry, and then they would leach it with sulfuric acid. So that's basically they pump sulfuric acid that dissolves the uranium, and then they can filter out all the rocks and the minerals. That's called tailings, and then they do some other process, and then you get pure uranium 238 with 0.7% enrichment.
Okay, cool.
Okay, but now new mining methods, they'll use in situ leaching, which is more so. I mean, to understand what they're doing there is they basically pumping groundwater with a lot of oxygen into the ore underground, and then that dissolves the uranium, and then they can pump that slurry up. So it's a much easier way to mine it.
So that's mining and refining in one step then.
Not quite refining, but it's
Do you still have to pull the ore out first and then you put it underground again? How
yeah.
does that work?
I can tell you.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, I can't tell you
Fair enough. And then
the
obviously the oxygen is helping oxidize quicker. And
yeah.
then yeah, you pull up a slurry. Okay, that's
Yeah,
cool, man.
and so conventional mining methods and refinement methods, you'd get uranium, so it's U308, and that has
Okay.
a yellow color. But
Okay.
nowadays, uranium enriched like the yellow cake, it's not actually yellow anymore because of the
Oh no,
new ways
man.
they mine it. Yeah, it's not actually yellow.
In the movies, it's always yellow. I believe the movies, man.
No, it used to be yellow. It's like a
Ah, okay.
bright yellow, like this board behind me, like that
Okay,
bright
fair.
yellow.
Fair.
But like nowadays,
Okay.
it can be like a blackish kind of color.
Okay.
All right,
Interesting.
so now when you have your yellow cake powder form now, Then they'll pass
Okay.
fluorine gas through through the uranium, through the yellow cake, and then this forms uranium hexafluoride. And this is a
Okay.
gas, and this is very important because now uh, they use processes like diffusion and centrifuges to separate the U-238 from the 235. And so now
Geos.
the way they actually do this, and it's actually flipping genius, because you got to remember that uranium two, chemically speaking, uranium 235 and 238 are the same. Uh, it's very difficult to find a okay, maybe there is one out there, but none that I know of, where you do some chemical process to the uranium and then
Yeah.
you magically get 235 and 238. They'll both undergo
Yeah.
the same things. The difference between them is the three neutrons that uranium 238 has compared to the three neutrons the U235 doesn't have. And that means that the mass between uranium 238 and uranium 235 differs by 1.26%.
It's ridiculous.
So, so if you have a solid block of uranium 238, a 1 kilogram block, if you have the exact same size block, bone wise, of 235, it would weigh what 98.3
Yeah, well,
kilograms.
it would be like, it would be so difficult for you to actually just know the difference. It's ridiculous. Like, how are people so smart? Honestly,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. Gee whiz. So you separate that out, obviously, by they
They
just
take
because their
advantage.
weight differs a little bit.
Yeah, but now you got to remember, now you've got the six fluoride atoms on the peripheral of this uranium
Oh my gosh.
atom.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the central, the hexafluoride, uranium hexafluoride, it's even,
Yeah.
the mass difference is even less than that.
Smaller. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's insane. All right.
So they use a
So that's
process.
basically
Yeah.
the enrichment process, and you do that again and again until you get the concentration that
Yeah.
you want.
Yeah. So the two things they use is diffusion, or diffusion is the old method. Centrifuge is the newest, is the new, more efficient method. So with diffusion, how that works is you have a porous medium, and then depending on the size of the particle or the mass of the particle, the diffusion rate differs by 1/√m². So that means the heavier, the lighter the atom, the quicker it will diffuse. So with diffusion, you'll get that the U235 will pass through the membrane slightly faster than the 238. But that's a
It's
very
insane.
but that's a very slow process. With
Okay,
centrifuges,
gotcha.
they spin the gas as fast as they can, and then the heavier particles move to the outwards, and the center will have more 230 to the
Some of the
235.
lighter stuff. Yeah.
And then basically what they do is they'll or feed the more enriched uranium gas, hexafluoride, and then they'll take the that's coming down from the center of the centrifuge, and then they'll take the tailings, which is the less enriched one. So now we had 0.7%. So maybe after one centrifuge, it's now 0.65%. No,
Six
no.
five.
Oh, wait,
So
we're
it's
trying
gone
to increase
down.
it. Sorry, no, sorry, we're trying to increase it. It's maybe now
No, fair
0.8,
enough.
but then in the
Yeah.
tailings, it's maybe now 0.5 or something like that.
So this seems like quite a flippant process, and we're still making the fuel here.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you know, like, between different, how do you say, yes, this was good, I've done this efficiently or not efficiently, basically?
Yeah. So
Because I mean, we're not even at the reactor stage now. We're still making the fuel.
and it gets even more complicated.
Don't tell me that.
So
I thought this was going to be simple.
so when I was looking up, okay, how do we, what is that, like, what are the amounts of uranium that these places are producing?
Yes.
And I was like, okay, cool. What's the typical capacity of
Yeah.
a enrichment plant?
As
They
we do, like tons per hour or something like that.
they started using a unit that I've never heard of called the separative work unit, and
Okay.
essentially it's a way to quantify the amount of effort one needs to put into to enrich uranium, and it depends of the mass of enriched uranium that you want to produce, and it's affected by how much you're starting with versus how much you want to get out versus how much you're getting in your tailing. So you remember you have three different
Whiskers, man.
concentrations in your process. The natural uranium, which might be about 0.7%,
Oh,
and then you'll get your enriched uranium, which you define it what it must be. So maybe 3.5, maybe 5, whatever. And then
yeah,
you
yeah.
need to give yourself an allowance called, and they call it your tail assay. They use the word assay a lot, and then eventually I realized that what they mean by that is it's just a short way of saying enriched uranium. So your tails assay of 0.2, and that's kind of
Assy,
typically what I saw. Yeah,
like
ASE.
ass, like assy, like ass, like assy.
Yeah, it's just a word. It took me a while to pick up on that. So, so,
Okay,
so
got you.
what makes it complicated is that we're trying to get to a specific concentration, and you're already
Yes.
starting with a specific concentration, and the fact that you will never be able to extract all the uranium out of a concentration. It's just too difficult. So, and so depending on what your starting concentration is, and depending on what you want to end with, and depending on what you want to let go, it's
Okay.
that all plays into an account. So you have to do a mass balance first to figure out how much uranium you want. So you say, okay, fine, if I want 10 kilograms of 5% enriched uranium, and my process allows me to get uh, an uh, uh, an assay of 0.2,
Yeah.
then I need to first do a mass balance of how much uranium I need to start with.
Basically your target. Yeah, your target.
And you can imagine that if my process allows for me to get to a lower um assay concentration, then
Yeah.
I won't need as much uranium to start with.
Okay,
But
got you.
but then the
Got you.
process as a whole becomes more effort. And so the way
Jeez, whiskers,
the,
man.
the way they standardize this whole thing is called separative work unit. And now it is way it's not that difficult to understand, but I'm not going to explain how to calculate it
Okay.
here. We will
No,
leave
fair enough.
we will leave a link. I'm just kind of going to show you the effects of how it
Okay.
translates. So you'll see that there's a nice little a graph, if you
Yeah,
will.
yeah.
And now what this graph is showing is that if you have 1 ton of 0.7 enriched uranium, how much will you get out at the end? So so you'll see at the bottom, it's got U235 content in percentages, and we start at 0.7, it goes all the way to 100%. And then you'll see that on the y-axis, you get standard work unit. So you'll see that from 0.7 to, let's say, about 4, you need about 8.5 standard work units per kilogram. So if they
Yes.
have
Yeah.
if they have 1 ton, then about 885 kilograms of that will become your enriched uranium or something like that. So you'll see that. So you at 5% enrichment, you get about 120 kilograms, and that's at a standard work unit per kilogram product of 8.85. But if you want to get to like nuclear weapon grade, that's 90%. So 1 ton of natural uranium will only give you about 5.6 kilograms of natural of enriched uranium, 90% enriched uranium.
It's insane how much effort you have to go through to get to that point. It's crazy. And you're
Yeah,
starting with so much.
yeah. But also the
Yes.
logic, and it's quite regulated, because the logic is, if you have the technology to enrich to 3.5% uranium, which is around what you need for nuclear power stations, theoretically you could go all the way to 90% and get yourself a nuclear weapon. And that's where
Yeah,
a lot of the
100%.
controversy is. So I think the takeaway is to go from being able to produce nuclear fuel to be going
Mm.
to then go and produce nuclear weapons is a huge leap. It's not a small jump. It's more time consuming. You get less, and yeah. So all in all, it's difficult to do, but it's still possible. And that's
Yeah.
where the first bit of like concern rises up.
Yeah, it becomes political then.
Yeah,
Obviously.
yeah, but yeah. So you'll see there the next graph is its percentage variation of uranium requirements and energy input to enrichment with different tail assemblies. So what they're showing here is if you just adjust your tail assembly, which is your concentration of your waste essentially, how
Yeah.
how does that change your standard work
Your
unit?
standard work
So for
units.
instance,
Okay.
so that's why I said they try to stick around 0.25 because that's where the two graphs intersect. That's where there's kind of
Oh,
a
got you.
balance between how difficult it is to do versus how much useful product you're getting out. And if you allow yourself to only, if your waste can be about 0.4%, then your process becomes very cheap. But then there's the trade-off of now I need to put more natural uranium into my process to get what I need, because you still need the 3.5% at the end.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it so complicated is there's a trade-off between how much effort you have to put in so that you're not wasting product versus how much you have to buy to actually put in to get what you need. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. And yeah, so for instance, to produce 1 kilogram of uranium enrichment to 5%, that requires 7.9 SWU. And that's if the plant operates with a tails assay of 0.25%. Or if they willing to operate with 8.9 SWU, then the tails assembly assay, I don't know why I say assembly, but it's assay.
It's because it's like a natural. Yeah.
It drops to 0.2%. And thereby it changes the thing of now I only need 9.4 kilograms of natural uranium instead of 10.4. So there's always that trade-off between the cost of enrichment and the cost of the actual uranium.
Yeah. And obviously it scales up. So if you're doing hundreds of tons, it makes a big difference.
Yeah. So, and now according to the World Nuclear Association, most of the nuclear reactors in operation or even busy being constructed, and that's about 500 of them, they use uranium as the fuel. So it's the big boy in terms of fuel. Like we keep pushing them, and so they use it they use it. Sorry, they use about 3 to 5% enriched uranium for pressurized water reactors and or boiling water reactors, and we'll talk about more of this maybe in a later episode. That we can delve a bit more deeply
into the different reactors
and what they do. And so now the three main producers of uranium are Orano, Razatom, and Urenco.
Razatom? Urenco?
Yeah. So this for some reason this just reminds me of remember we had young Matty on the poddy talking about hydrogen vehicles.
Yeah.
And he was like, there's like with hydrogen companies, this trend of having HY. And like you kind of see it, so you kind of see there. So Orano, ano is atom, then Orazatom, and then uran for uranium. So I was like, so it's not just hydrogen that does this.
It's literally just the way humans.
We want our company names to represent what we're doing.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and these companies generally they operate in France, Germany, Netherlands, UK, USA, and Russia. And then you get the CNNC, and they are like a domestic supplier, and they're pursuing export incentives. So they're going to produce their enriched uranium and then export them. And then in Japan and Brazil, there's a whole, they have like domestic fuel productions there, and they manage themselves quite well.
Do we do any enrichment?
So South Africa used to have enrichment, but then after apartheid, I think we started decommissioning our nuclear program. I mean, I'm not 100% sure where Cuberg is getting their fuel cell their fuel rods from.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Well, I mean, how often do you replace fuel rods in a reactor?
It's not often.
Okay. Well, they must be importing them.
So yeah, we'll get into that more a bit later.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, so there's a table that kind of breaks down in each country what's the capacities. So it generally ranges. So France, they rely heavily on nuclear. They able to produce 7,500,000 SWUs per year. That's the capacity of their plants, and it ranges between the different companies.
Is this output of enriched uranium now?
No, this is the capacity of their plant.
Their plant, their nuclear plants.
Yeah. No, yeah. Well, their enrichment plants.
Yeah, so this is the stuff they're producing.
Exactly.
They're producing enriched uranium.
Yeah.
And this is how many standard work units per year.
Yeah.
Brack, Jack. Look at freaking Russia, mate.
Pumping
27 million SWUs. Yeah, see. Nice, boys. Sorry, yes. Could continue on, Mr. Unsula. I would have thought China would have more, eh? I really would have thought.
No, they've got a fair amount. I mean, they're not far behind. They've got more than the USA, and the USA have the most amount. Cool, eh? They have the most amount of
number of power stations.
So, I mean, it depends. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So, yeah. World enrichment capacity operated in.
What's this next one? What does this table tell us?
This table is telling us how the different companies. So remember, we had the four main suppliers: CNNC, Orano, Rosatom.
Oh yeah.
Urenco, and this is kind of about how they're expanding. So in 2020, they had capacities ranging between, I would say, 6,000 and 18,000, or 27,000 for Rosatom, and now it actually looks like Rosatom's planning to
decrease. Well, pretty. Yeah, it's crazy. Check the CNNC. I would assume that's a Chinese company.
Yeah.
CNN.
So they're the ones that want to produce for export.
And they want to like double in 10 years, more than double in 10 years. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, but I guess the story is basically the demand's going up over time for nuclear fissionable fuel.
Yeah, pretty much. And yeah, so in today's day and age, the maximum a plant will normally produce is about 5% uranium. That's the maximum level of enrichment there.
And that's obviously like a legal compliance thing.
And now, like with new smaller reactor designs that are becoming available, there is an interest in increasing that enrichment. So remember, I said the different design reactors will want to produce more enrichment, and it makes sense.
Yes.
Because if you're going to produce a smaller reactor, then you're going to want a fuel that's more enriched, because that fuel is lighter.
So, okay.
So yeah,
why would you care about lightness in a stationary application? Is that
I've seen some applications where they want to make like kind of mini nuclear plants, so that you can build
like on a ship or something.
Yeah, like on exactly, like on a ship, where size and space constraints are a bit more of a concern.
Okay, got you.
So then in that case, you'd want to produce a bit higher enrichment, but then you get the trade-off of, okay, it's more, that feels more expensive now.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, and so in 2021, the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission approved a license for Urenco to enrich up to 5.5%, and they in 2023 applied for 10%.
Okay.
And Wellington, North Carolina plant of global laser enrichment. So yeah, that's just another way to enrichment. So the centrifuge is the most common one, but there's also like a laser thing that I didn't really get into. They want to enrich to 8%, and then Rosatom, apparently they can produce more than 5%. I don't know why they would state it like that. I think it's because they're Russian. So and this is an American. I got this from
got you. Okay, got you. Yeah. A little bit of scare tactics.
And then Centrus in USA was licensed in 21 to produce 600 kilograms a year of high assay light enrichment uranium of up to 20%. So when we talk about light enrichment, we're talking about for nuclear cells. If you're talking about high enrichment, that's when you start getting into the nuclear warheads stuff, which is not really what we want to talk about in today's episode.
Well, I would think if they're starting to enrich a bit more, there's obviously little pilot plants they were testing, and it's probably a lot of academic stuff that they looking to do? Because this isn't obviously legal
Yeah.
at the moment. You must keep
So
it at like 3-4%.
yeah, so that 20% enrichment plant, that's more for like research reactors. So if you look at
Yes, yeah,
that
makes
graph,
sense.
you'll see it where they have 20%. It says their research reactor.
Okay, got you. Okay, no, fair enough.
So it's for research.
Makes sense.
And then yeah, so that's pretty much the gist of it when we're talking about enrichment. So end of
And
the
that's
day,
just the fuel now.
and
That's
they
just
are.
the freaking fuel.
So yeah, that's just what's been going in to make the fuel.
That's crazy, man. That's absolutely insane. So then so obviously you go from mining the ore, which we do a bit in South Africa, Namibia type of thing. Obviously, I would assume we export it, since we're not doing enrichment here, to one of these companies. They do their standard work units, get it to the percentage you wanted. They sell it on to the operators then.
Yeah.
And then they start doing the whole plant thing.
They'll probably sell that uranium to whoever's producing the actual fuel cell.
The electrodes.
Yeah.
Well, the fuel, what fuel rods? We call them
fuel
fuel
rods,
rods, right?
Yeah, I'm
There
just
you
so
go.
used to
Okay.
talking about hydrogen fuel cells.
All right, sweet. So we've gone now from mining to a little bit of what we do with the tailings and the assembly, which we call assay, little uranium assay. And then, so basically, it'll go to one of these companies. We've seen a little bit of growing demand for nuclear. And I know, like, we talk about this a lot. Like, we believe nuclear has a big part to play, and we don't understand why it's not playing a bigger part already where we sit. And like going back just to our flipping EV episode, just seeing how few EVs it takes to break the South African grid. Like, there's a lot of space to grow, right? So I think interesting. And we've seen a lot of fusion stuff. We got to do an episode on fusion. It looks really cool.
Definitely.
Right?
Like a mini sun.
A mini sun. Actually, isn't that the one? I don't know if you've heard Elon's. Have you heard Elon's views on fusion?
I think we already have a giant fusion reactor in the sky that called the sun that shows up every day. It converts about 4.5 million tons of mass to energy every second, and requires no maintenance. It's amazing. You don't have to refuel it. You don't have to maintain it. It's just there. So my recommendation for fusion is solar power and batteries. And we can.
So I don't know. He's a billionaire. He's got more money than me. I'll take his word for it. But anyway, to us, right, as little cisgendered white male engineers
with a podcast,
we're with a podcast. We believe nuclear is the way. And I think just in terms of how the world wants to drive greenhouse gas emissions drive down, we want to decarbonize. It's very difficult to do with renewables. I'm sure this is like a common knowledge, right? It's very hard with intermittent loads. You need something that will supply a very large base load. And we believe that's nuclear. I don't know if you disagree with that from.
Yeah, no,
I mean, we speak all the time about this.
I mean, if I didn't believe in it, I don't think I would have been so interested to
done a whole episode on it.
Yeah.
No, fair enough. But the weird thing is we've seen a decrease in the use of nuclear energy. I don't know if it's back on the uptrend, but I mean, since 1993, it looks like it's been declining. But I think there's an uptick again. I don't know. Do you have any details on where it's going?
Yeah, so there was a study done in 2015 called Nuclear Power in the 21st Century, Challenges and Opportunities. And the study included, they spoke about fusion and they spoke about fission and where they think the world is going to go and what the perception is. So they said that in 2014, the International Panel on Climate Change, they said that nuclear energy is a mature, low greenhouse gas emission source of base load power. Like you said, we need
100%.
a base load source of energy.
Agreed.
But its share of global electricity has been declining since 1993. And nuclear energy could make an increasing contribution to low carbon energy supply, but there's a variety of barriers that and risk exist. So the main barrier with nuclear is that when nuclear goes wrong, it's expected to go like severely wrong, and then there's a big public opinion kind of.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's very public driven.
And one of the reasons why they're looking so much into nuclear is because they're expecting the electricity demand to increase significantly in the future, and especially as like the transport sector, they're gonna rely less on fossil fuels and rather more electric or hybrid vehicles. And we stated previously that if you're gonna have an electric vehicle, you can't take away from the existing power load. You have to replace it with something new. And they were saying that nuclear is what's going to be able to provide this clean energy or low greenhouse gas emission energy for this kind of thing.
It makes sense because I mean it's a reaction that you have a bit more control over versus a solar panel or wind turbine or whatever the story is.
And there's a lot of critical discussion about the continuation of nuclear power as well, because like I said, there's a big public perception thing. And like I think that the best example is Germany introduced, and it's like their Go Green campaign, and
Initiative.
part of their they call it the Energiewende. Maybe I said that wrong. I'm sorry.
Nice, that was good. That was good.
Any German people, I said that with an Afrikaans, with my Afrikaans blood. So
he meant complete offense.
Yeah. So and in their Go Green campaign, the Energiewende, they said that they were going to close all of their nuclear power stations by 2023, like 2022.
It's ridiculous.
So they closed the Grunde Reimingen
Nice, I like that one. Yeah. No, Brockdorf.
They shut all of those down 31 December 2021. Then they were still having a little bit of issues with shutting down the last
15.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's 15 April.
Yeah, so on the 15th of April, they officially shut down all of their nuclear power stations, and they went more the solar panel and wind power generation route.
Crazy.
And for me, what the surprising reason is that there was a public vote that Germany launched, where the public voted for this. So this wasn't even politicians that decided this. This was public opinion. They were like, we don't want nuclear power in this, not here,
Not here. Take that shit out.
Basically, take that shit out, because they're gonna say like, no, they've had enough of nuclear. They burnt enough people. So
no.
I'll edit that one out. Don't worry. That one was...
I love it. Gee whiz. That's insane, man. That's insane to take such a rash decision and leave it to the masses. But I mean, I guess it's democracy.
Look, at the end of the day, it was the German taxpayer that paid for all of this, and they were willing to pay for it. So you know what? To each their own. I think it was a mistake.
But again, it's just it's bad. It's just bad perception of it. Like you said, in Fukushima, how many people died? 2. Or how many?
I don't think any. No one died.
No one died in Fukushima. They made this big rash decision. Crazy, man.
Yeah, but we'll get into that. So I thought, okay, that was a 2015 study. What are they saying now? This is
okay. Fair enough.
We are about like 9 years after that.
Okay. 9 years since 2015.
So as of this study, which is a 2024 study, they say that nuclear provides 9% of the world's electricity from about 440 power reactors.
Okay.
And it provides about 25% of the world's low carbon electricity. So we're looking at all the low carbon sources, and it is the second largest source of the world's low carbon power. And what would you say the largest source of low power energy is?
Of low carbon?
Yeah.
Largest source, I'd probably pumped hydro.
Yeah. I was surprised at that.
Nah, man, come on, man. You got to know about pumped hydro, man.
Yeah, no. I mean, like, I always knew it was a thing, but I didn't know it was that big of a thing.
It was such a thing, yeah.
But now I'm more educated.
Now you're educated.
And so like over 50 countries today use nuclear energy, and there's about 220 research reactors trying to improve the technology. And but also these reactors are also being used to produce medical and industrial isotopes for training and things like that.
Okay.
So and a cool little factoid here: in 2023, nuclear plants supplied 2,602 terawatt hours of power.
Massive.
Yeah, that's a lot of energy, and
That's
that's
it's a little bit of,
and that's an increase from 2022 where they supplied 2,545 terawatt hours.
but there's
So
still space to grow. There's still space to grow out.
so yeah, so I've got a nice image here for you from the World Nuclear Association, and what they're kind of showing here is how these different regions have so basically nuclear power generation capacity, and so this is like how global capacity has grown over the years, and which regions are growing. So you'll see
Check Africa, man.
Africa's there, slow and steady, but
Where?
right at the bottom. Like if you zoom in,
That's you zoom in tiny, man.
it's right at the bottom, and
That's insane.
and it looks like North America, like they also steadily increase. And if you look around
But
2010,
look at Asia.
2020,
Look at Asia, man.
yeah,
Them Asians, they be growing that nuclear.
yeah.
Look
To
how
me, it
big
looks
they've been
like
growing since 2014. No, I know in terms of like the share, but I mean,
Yeah.
look at Asia steadily increasing. But yeah, sorry to interrupt your thought there.
Yeah. And what's interesting to me is if you look at like 2010, 2012, that's when Fukushima happened. You see there's a
Yeah.
slight dip, eh? So like
Yeah.
so like if you look at 2010 and you look at 2021, you'll see that like basically the same. So like in 10
Yeah.
years, the capacity dropped and then started picking up again. And I think that's because the world started taking a bigger initiative on green energy or low carbon energy, I want to say. But 2011, there was that dip where Fukushima happened, and then
Well, obviously,
public
Fukushima
perception
happened,
took a hit. Germany decided
Yeah.
that they were done with nuclear reactors, and yeah, we can see the trend to kind of show that history. And I thought that was
Well, I mean, you can see there, since like we haven't even gotten over this yearly production. Yeah, we haven't even gotten over what we were doing in early 2000s. So like nuclear energy as a whole hasn't grown in volume for like 20 years. That's crazy.
Yeah. And then the next graph I'm showing is just kind of like what's the world share of, so like in total, in
How
2020,
much each produces.
the world was able to produce about 26,000 terawatt, or let's say 27,000 terawatt hours, and like what's kind of the share in where coal
Yes,
is the
coal is still the lion's share. Eh?
yeah, coal and gas, and then it goes to hydro, and then nuclear, and then it's our boys solar, wind, and geothermal, and all that good stuff. I mean, they take a small share when they actually like start combining all of them.
Yeah, into other. You make one category out of those. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not too
Just
sure
to
what
pump up the numbers.
I'm not too sure what other is, but that
2.7%. What would other be?
That's those tunnies in the gym, with the dynamo. You got a whole bunch of them.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. They're the real MVPs. Yeah.
Could be. Who's to say? And
All right, so then in terms of like what are the countries that produce like the most? Do you know?
So yeah, in 2023, there's 14 countries and they produce at least 25% of their power through nuclear power.
Okay.
And there's France, which they rely 70% of their power generation is on nuclear. So like where Germany was like, nah, we're done with nuclear, France was like, hold up.
Makes sense.
I think we should do this. And I've also read somewhere, so I mean we're gonna have to look this one up. France has one of the cheapest electricity tariffs in the world because they're because they're so reliable. Because like other countries are focusing more on like solar and wind, and that's expensive technology. Whereas in nuclear, it's heavy capital, but your running costs are a lot lower.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense.
In the long run, like nuclear makes sense. And then and then Ukraine and Slovakia, they after France in terms of their in terms of them being reliant on nuclear, they produce about 50% of their power from nuclear. And then there's Japan, and before Fukushima, Japan used to rely on nuclear for about 25% of their power, and they're expected to go back to that. And this study said that there was no time frame given for that, but they got
Okay, they got. Okay, I'll believe it.
I think I think a nicer thing to kind of, because I don't want to just spit facts at everyone. There's another graph provided by the World Nuclear Association, and they kind of showing what's the capacity of each country. So yeah, so there's the USA, they
I'm
producing.
very impressed by France.
Yeah,
I'm very impressed.
yeah,
They
really.
are tiny compared to the US and China. Look at that. They almost produce the same amount. Okay, well, about half of the US, but the US is massive. It's a whole continent.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm
And
very impressed. Sorry,
yeah,
describe the graph for the listeners.
yeah. So it's basically a graph that ranks nuclear capacity of different countries. And at the big three, we have the USA, China, and France. And as we said previously, France relies on nuclear for about 70% of their power. So yeah, they really jumped on the nuclear bandwagon there. USA, we kind of expected they were the first nation to really like
Yeah, well,
capitalize
they
on
invented it.
nuclear.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you say, they invented it. Then there's the China, and then then it kind of just goes down, and then South Africa's there on their list.
There's the China.
Yeah,
I love the China. Yeah, check us. They're right at the
yeah,
bottom, man.
we
Oh,
there. I
goodness.
mean, we
Yeah,
beating
we're getting there.
Argentina, Iran, Slovenia, Belarus, Netherlands, and
Belarus. Yeah,
Armenia.
wow. Flipping.
So yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, yeah,
wow.
we're
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 getting
on
there. We're
we're on
getting
the
there.
list. We're on the list.
Okay, sweet guys. So I think my brain hurts a little bit now with Mr. Hinsel's splitting of atoms in the universe. So we're going to cut it here, and then we will continue on the next episode with all the cool things. We got some cool stuff planned for the next one, some myths, some controversial stuff, South African stuff. So we'll throw that in there. But I think, Mr. Hinsel, let's throw straight into what's the first thing we have here. Is it permission to bitch first?
Yeah,
I've
permission
already
to bitch.
forgotten. Yes, permission to bitch. And you have a wonderful story for us. So throw us right in there, please.
So normally, a permission to bitch is about. It's a section in the show where we just give each other a safe space to bitch about something. But you know what?
100%.
For once, I don't want to bitch. For once, I want to
Okay.
appreciate. I want to appreciate something. I want
Okay.
to do the opposite of bitch.
Yes.
So today was a tough day in terms of like it was just a long day. Didn't sleep too great last night. So all in all, like physically, not feeling too good. And
Not
honestly, like
100%.
Jonathan and I have mostly me have been like we really left this like recording this episode to the last minute, and
Yeah.
we're recording it on the last possible day to record because we bit
Yeah.
because we still need to edit this episode, and then we want to release this by Monday, and it is now Thursday, so that gives us
Yes.
like 3-4 days to get this done. So we both agreed that this is the day. There's no other time. It has to get done now. Otherwise, we're not going to release. And I was even like on my drive home, sitting in silence, thinking to myself, like, how am I going to get through this? And I get home, and Alette, bless her soul. Honestly, I must have been something good in my past life. I get home, and then she's made macaroni and cheese, and I don't know, like tear
It was just what you needed.
down my eye. I see this macaroni. I dish up food. It was ready by the time I got home.
Oh, my word.
And like we sat down, we ate, and honestly, my soul, I actually got emotional while eating, just because like it was a tough day, and this macaroni just gave me the energy I needed. So yeah, a bit of wholesome
Is it like,
story.
did you levitate out of your body and watch yourself?
Just yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Gee whiz, man. Okay. Nice.
it's great.
Lit. Is it great? Okay. Did it give you the feel you needed?
Yeah, it gave me the fuel I needed to get through recording this
So
episode.
that's not really a permission to bitch. What are you calling this? Gratitude hour.
Yeah, gratitude, permission to be grateful.
Permission to be grateful. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna bitch if that's all right.
Bitch away.
Discoveries app. Useless, terrible, horrible. I don't know if I've bitched about this before, but I had to go to the pharmacy the other day, and I had to go in, and I don't know what it is about Discoveries app. It always forgets your username and password, and then you have to log in again. And because I don't get sick every week, I can't remember what my password and my username is. Then I have to reset. Well, instead, all in front of the pharmacist, man. All in front of the pharmacist now, holding everyone up because I can't remember my Discovery. And it's a terrible app. I don't. Do you go on the Discovery app a lot? Terrible app.
I only go on to see if my vitality points are pulled through.
Oh, so you just don't get sick. You don't ever need to claim these things. Terrible, man. But then, so we're going to do, since you did something grateful here, it showed me I can add my card, my medical aid card, to my Apple Wallet. Now, this did make me feel old. So now I never have to log into the Discovery app ever again. I've got it on my Apple Wallet. Just a quick little double click. Got it.
Doesn't your pharmacy upload your card to
Dude, I don't know. There was, you know what the problem is now? If I go to Dischem, I'd never know what address I've given Dischem.
But you just give them your name.
No. It's my name, and then they say, "What's your address?" And then I can't remember if I signed up with when I was still with my parents at their address, if it was when we were still in Greenstone, if it's where we are now, if I used my other rental houses. I can never remember, man.
Do you not have
and then
do you not have a Dischem loyalty card?
I do not have a Dischem loyalty card.
Get yourself one of those.
Believe it or not, and then it's also
you literally just give them the card. They scan. It brings up your profile, and there's none of this. What address is this?
But you see, then I wouldn't be able to bet about it.
I'm sorry. Let me ask. Do you want to be heard? Helped?
Held or humped? No, I just wanted to be heard, man. You need to help me with this. Okay. Yeah, so now I've got it in my Apple Wallet. It's done. I'm sorted. So it was a bitch, but it had a happy ending. It came full circle.
That's good, man.
All right, into life hacks. You got a life hack there for us?
This one, I feel like it's a common one.
Okay.
But listening to podcasts.
Okay, got you.
Sped up has been a game changer.
Oh, no. Really?
Yeah.
Why? Does it help you?
I feel like some podcasts are really long, and like when you listen to Mr. Huberman's podcast, like they're interesting, but like his adverts are so long.
I guess so.
Yeah, you can skip through it, but like sometimes you're more focused on driving, and then like you spend 6 minutes of your transit listening to
what speed do you listen on? What speed do you listen on?
1.2.
Are you at a 1.2 guy?
I tried to, and then I was like, I will listen to twice the amounts of podcasts. But then I was like, but I'm not following this. So then I went to 1.5, and then I was like, still not really comfortable to listen to. So I found 1.2 is in my sweet spot.
Okay, so you've optimized.
Yeah.
Yes, 1.2. Okay, fair enough. I'll give you one, which I've been doing now for about a week and a bit. When I wake up, okay, let's do this. I used to wake up every day and I'm super thirsty. I don't know if you get really thirsty as you wake up.
I do.
But I'm like parched, can't think of anything else but getting water inside of me. And then I have like smaller, the little glasses we have, the ones with the little bubble keys on the outside. I don't know how much that is, 200 mils, 250 mils, somewhere there. I'll have like 4 or 5 of those just to take to quench the thirst, like as I woke up. And I don't know, and I haven't researched this. I'll bring some research next time. How's that? But like, I feel like that's not the best way to hydrate. I'm sure Dr. Huberman would agree that that's not the best way to hydrate. So what I've started doing is I crack a bit of sea salt into the, I don't know if you've ever tried this. And it's like, I thought it would taste disgusting. It's really nice. And I feel I feel, what's the word? It's like satisfied.
You go to electrolytes.
Yeah. Like I have that one glass of water. I'm like, wow, I'm not thirsty anymore. Like you would think it makes you more thirsty, but I'm not thirsty anymore. I actually feel good. And I'm like having a bit more energy as I get my start of the day. I don't know if it's all mental.
Yeah, I was about to ask, do you think it's a placebo thing?
It must be, dude, because I think I saw a reel on Instagram with one of those gym bros who does it, and maybe I just want to be like him. But I don't drink 5 glasses of water anymore, and I feel good. So even if it is a placebo, it's working. So
I don't know.
yeah.
One of life's greatest pleasures for me, after mac and cheese, is like if you can just downing an entire liter of water. I don't like when you parch like that. It just feels so good.
No. We tend to agree. I love to do that like on a hot day, but when I wake up every morning, because then You know what it is? As I'm driving to work, then my bladder decides it's full. It can't take it anymore. And then as soon as I get out the car, I got to run for the toilet. And I haven't had to do that as well. So multiple benefits.
You can tell you had more than one bathroom in your household growing up.
My bladder's not trained, man.
Yeah.
Not trained for this. It's too luxurious. Okay, Mr. Insular, into recommendations. What you got for us this week?
Well, I watched Inside Out 2 this past week. It's pretty
And?
wholesome. Pretty wholesome. I feel like it's a good way
Is
to
it worth
kind of
it?
look. It's light watching. It's not. I mean, I watched it in 3 bouts, 3 sessions. Yeah, it's easy to watch. It's funny. It's wholesome. It's Pixar, so you know it's going to be wholesome.
Yeah, I got you. Teaches you a life lesson.
Exactly.
It's got a really good Rotten Tomato score, eh? We
And
got a 91% on the tomato meter.
and I think it teaches, I don't know, people who aren't super like in train, like super like used to it. It teaches people who don't really know anything about like how to be emotionally intelligent, a little bit
Okay,
about
good.
like what your emotions are there for. I mean, obviously it's it's dramatized, and like the main character Riley
It's made for kid.
is super unhinged.
Should not be allowed into society or by herself.
Yeah, no, like she develops an entirely new persona in like 3 days, and like it's a bit messed up. But
Okay.
I like it.
We're not here to judge. It worked. Well, it got a really good audience score. Okay. I mean, might as well. Might as well. Anything else?
No, nothing from me.
Was that you've been slow dosing that over the week?
Yeah.
Started watching Seinfeld again. I watched it years back, trying to watch it again. I don't know. And I feel like I'm a different person now. It's just not. It's hard for me to watch. I don't know. You're a Seinfeld fan?
I mean, I've seen a few episodes. I don't remember hating it, but I never really ever got super into it.
I don't hate it. It's just I don't. It's so like I don't want to. It's like laborious to get through, and maybe it's just the first few seasons. I don't know, but it's been tough. But yeah, we're getting there. Back into Seinfeld, doing a little bit of rewatching. My family cinema has run out now, and I will not use their new payment method, because their new payment method asks me to sign into my bank account on some random web page. They won't take my credit card.
Yeah. No,
I'm not going to do that. This is a matter of principle.
That's sus.
That's sus, right? That's sus. So yeah, we only have Netflix now, and it's between those cheerleaders at the Dallas Cowboys and Seinfeld.
But maybe
and I
less
can't
TV is
stand
a
the
good thing.
cheerleaders. No, 100%. So maybe I'll have some book recommendations next time. Doubt it, but maybe I will. All right. Anything else from you, Mr. Insula?
Nothing else from me.
Nothing else from you. All right, guys, if you want to get into contact with us, correct us about nuclear fission and all the mistakes we made in trying to teach you guys about it. Reach out to us. It's at highlevelpodcasts@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram as well. It's at High Level Podcasts. Please, guys, we are going to start posting more. I don't know if you saw, I put a video up there this morning. You need to go like it.
I did see it.
And I am committing to doing one every day. It's going to happen.
When I get
It's
a
going to
better
happen.
phone, I will commit to posting
To
more
doing
of
it
as well.
Oh wait, before we go, I am committing to a no. I'm still thinking of a ringy thing. No social media for September. Maybe make a hashtag. Social media. I don't know.
Make a social media hashtag so that to promote for not being on social.
Are you doing it with me? Are you on social media?
No, I definitely feel like I need less social media in my life.
Right, for September. Come on. Commit to it. Commit to it on a public platform of our podcast.
Yeah, I will commit to no social media except for the band.
Yeah, well, obviously business stuff. Like we'll still do the podcast.
Yeah.
Social media. We just won't be endlessly browsing. You will not get a meme or a reel from me for the whole of September, Mr. Hinselot.
Yeah. So, yeah, in September, I will inspect your phone. I probably in the
dude, you would know I'm on social media because you would be getting the reels.
I wouldn't, because I wouldn't be on social media.
Oh, sure. Yes. All right. I'll get Jen to keep tabs on me. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining in this episode. We'll see you guys again with part 2 next time, where we discuss a bit more about nuclear. Yeah, Mr. Hintelar, any parting words?
Go well, sleep well, drink well, stay hydrated.
That was very good, man. Did you rehearse that?
No.
No, it's just all right, guys. Have an awesome week. We'll catch you in the next one.
Cheers. Ciao.
Ciao.